All right, welcome back, guys. It's Nate at Weller Truck again, here with you in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And today we're going to be talking about our Allison dyno process. Over the last few years, we've made a lot of investment in our test equipment, and we purchased two new Hicklin dyno chassis, and we upfitted them with our data acquisition and automated test features. So we're going to mount this transmission up right here. I'll show you what all we plug into it and how we test the transmission. Now that we have the bell housing bolted up to the machine, we can go ahead and put our flex plate to the torque converter bolts in up in front. All of the dynos are fitted with e-stops, so if a door is left open or if one of our pins from our indexing motor come out or is loose and not safe, it immediately shuts down the test. So we take safety really personal here, and we want to make sure that all of our machines are safe to operate. All of our dynos have indexing motors to make it ergonomically comfortable for the operator to run. So what we can do after we get everything bolted up here, we just select which direction we want the indexing motor to rotate in, and we can rotate the transmission on its side so that we can hook up all of our test equipment comfortably. Now what we're going to do is remove all of the factory test plugs, and we're going to fit them with our hydraulic line couplers. So once all the factory test plugs are removed, we're going to fit it with the hydraulic test plugs here. And then these are all hand tight, so we don't impact tighten any of the test equipment on here. We always use hand sockets to make sure we don't strip any ports. Okay, now we have all the clutch pressure test lines installed. Now we have to install the cooler lines. Now that all our lines and hoses are connected, we can rotate it back to upright position. And like we talked about before, this pin here is a safety precaution on this machine. So there's a limit switch inside here. If this pin is not installed to pin the indexing ring to the machine, the test won't run. Or if this comes loose during a test and falls out, it immediately stops our test for safety's sake. Now we can move the load cell and spline it into the yoke. All right, what the load cell allows us to do is to load the transmission. It has an eddy brake inside, a magnetic brake that applies and slows the transmission or puts a load on it. It also has air style brake, which allows us to stall the transmission. So that's why we have the load cell on. They lock into place, so after you put it in position, you want to lock it down on both sides. Now on this side of the transmission is where we're going to plug in our wiring. Depending on which transmission we have, we're going to choose which wire harness to plug in. So right now we're going to be doing 4th generation transmission style plug. We also have other wire harnesses up here for different transmission models. So on the 3000 series transmission, we have to plug in the input speed sensor, the main harness connector, and the output speed sensor. We also have an oil fill tube on this side. So we're going to poke that in there. This will allow us to fill it up. So now I like to, after we get everything hooked up, just to double check everything. I know I've got my flex plate bolts in and tight, and my door is shut. I've got my bell housing bolts in and tight. Hoist is out of the way. I have my fill tube, my wiring's connected, my output's splined in, and the load cell is locked down. So now we are ready to start the test here. Now what I'm going to do is take my build paperwork and I'm going to input the serial number or the tag number of the transmission, and then I'm going to put the part number in there. Our database has the part number stored so that when I put my part number in the automated software, it goes and pulls the correct test out of the database, and that's what it's going to run. Another thing that we need to make sure of is that we're plugging the right TCM in. So the Dyno carts are set up with TCMs for every type of electronic Allison transmission. So I have to know that I'm running a close ratio 3000 series transmission, and I have to choose the 3000 close ratio TCM to plug into it for it to run the test. Now that I have the right TCM plugged in for the close ratio 3000 series transmission, I power up the test stand, and I know that I have a computer plugged in and it's in the right settings. I have 2 ends for neutral on my keypad. We're also going to plug in our laptop with Allison dock software. The entire test is ran with dock software. The dock software runs in conjunction with the automated test so that we can clutch test each range to make sure it's not slipping. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and fill this transmission. So I'm going to reset my oil counter to 0. Oil counter set at 0. I'm going to go ahead and hit fill on my screen here, and I can verify that it's counting. So we are filling with oil and getting ready to spin this transmission up. All right, now that I'm at 20 quarts on the counter, I can go ahead and start the test. The input motor begins to spin, and I continue to fill to get the correct fluid level. The first step of our test is a purge. So we're going to put it into drive, and it's going to shift the transmission all the way up to high range, and it's going to come back down to neutral. Then we're going to do a stall test where we're going to check each range for clutch slippage, and we're going to then stall it in 3rd range until it's at operating temperature. And then we're going to do the pressure check where it runs the transmission through each one of its ranges and collects the individual clutch pressure, cooler flow, lube pressure, lockup pressure, and temperature for the test to certify that it's a good transmission. All right, now we're going to go to the purge section of the test. We're going to select drive on the keypad, and then we're going to tell our test that we're in drive, and it's going to ramp it to high gear, 6 range, and it's going to call back down to idle. Okay, the purge looked good. On our dock we have no active codes, so we're going to go ahead and go to the stall test. So what I'm going to do is stall it in each range, and then I'm watching my dock software here for any turbine speed. So with the output stalled and we're in gear, we should have no turbine speed in any ranges. The stall test on this particular converter runs at 1300 RPM. So the input's spinning at 1300 RPM, the transmission's in gear, and the output is stopped. Now on my computer I verified that there was 0 turbine speed in each range during the stall test. This is going to continue to stall until we reach converter out temperature of 205 degrees. When the converter out temperature reaches 205 degrees, the transmission's at operating temperature and we can continue the test. Okay, our temperature got up to 205, and the next step is checking the oil level sensor. The way we check our oil level sensor is push the 2 up and down arrow keys on the keypad at the same time. It will flash OL for oil level, and then it will begin doing a countdown. This is the normal operation. This is going to tell us if our oil level is high, low, or okay. So I tell my system that OLS is good, the oil level sensor is good. Now we're going to go to the high speed reverse check, and it's going to go into reverse, and we're going to measure our clutch pressure, flow, lube, temperature, everything we need for reverse. Next step is the high speed neutral. So I'm going to shift to neutral. It's going to go to 2100 RPM and check our pressures in neutral. Now we're going to go to our forward range high speed check. So we're going to go through all the gears at high speed. Okay, each range passed in the high speed test. So now we're going to capture our low speed first gear. Okay, now we're going to test the main mod using our main mod switch. So I flip the switch and confirm that on the computer screen my pressure dropped, and then I flip the switch back on and make sure that my pressure went back to full main. With that, I tell him that main mod is good, and then I want to capture my neutral low speed pressures. So I shift to neutral and I capture the low speed neutral. Also need to capture my low speed reverse. So I shift to reverse here and I capture my low speed reverse. So that completes our dyno test. When we're done, we capture the temp, and then we verify on our screen that we're good, and we pass it. So that is our full dyno process. Every single transmission that leaves this building is dyno tested in this same manner. I want to thank you for watching this video today, and if you have any questions, you can give us a call at 800-872-6697, or you can go to our website, www.wellertruck.com. Thank you.